Hi, Jeff Cote here with another Boating Tech Talk. All right, so we've got a question from another Jeff. Jeff asks, Jeff, I noticed that on larger boats, there's an open slot cable raceways. By the way, Jeff's right. If you've ever been on a ferry or a commercial boat, you'll notice these open trays. Actually, even if you're like, there's a lot of ferries here in British Columbia, and we'll see those open wire trays. And you see that on commercial vessels as well. Jeff continues. Jeff, I'm contemplating redoing the wiring on my little boat. Do you recommend going this route using open slot raceways, or should I just do something different? All right, so we've got a question from Jeff. And to recap, Jeff's contemplating rewiring his own boat. Kudos for him to try to tackle on that project. And the question is, how do you route cables on a boat? Well, the reality is that in an ideal world, those open slot raceways are really good. Wires, follow a random path in that raceway. They sort of intertwine. And that's really good for offsetting magnetic flux. And when you run wires really neatly in a beautiful bundle, it might look really great for some of us that really like order. It certainly does. It's something I love seeing, but there's a downside to it. And the reality is that it's probably better to have a bundle of wires not so tight, and it's also for heat dissipation, right? Because wires do get hotter when they're in a bundle than if they're running straight in the air. And so there's a lot of reasons why you don't want to have all your cabling neatly tied in a bundle. Now, there's a big difference between what we want and what we get. Right? A commercial vessel is generally, especially those large freighters and ferries, are built with lots of space. And so they can do that. So in reality, as boaters and recreational boaters, we don't get an opportunity to do exactly what is perfect on our boats. It's all about compromises. That's why it's a boat. You can't do what you want. There's always a price to everything. So if you're running wiring on your own boat, and you're rewiring a boat project, yeah, I would suggest to create an area along the hull, and maybe again, generally they're make it as big as you can possibly get away with. Meaning, if you're going to be passing about this amount of cabling and wires, and it's going to be maybe a 2 inch in diameter, well, let yourself maybe 3 inches. Try to give yourself so the wires have space, so that they're not so perfectly bundled together that you're going to actually have heat issues. Because when we're calculating cable size, there's a lot of assumptions that have to be done in making sure that your wiring has room to dissipate heat. And so I would suggest, and that's certainly what I've done on my boat, you want to make it look neat, but not so neat, obsessive that it's actually to the detriment of the cabling, right? Especially for heat dissipation. The other thing too that you want to consider, besides bundling, and reality, you won't be able to have a tray because most of us don't have that opportunity on recreational boats. Besides that is also trying to keep your AC and DC wiring not running in the same bundles. Easier said than done, but if it can be avoided, do so. I've read in places where they try to run the AC and DC when they have to overlap in parallel, like they'll run them actually across from one another, so they're not running in parallel. That's one thing. And so, on my own boat, again, I'm going to try, sometimes, yes, the AC wiring comes near the DC wiring, but if that's going to happen, I'm going to try to run it offset. I'm going to try to have them run different routes. I might have the AC go on the port of the boat, and I might have the DC go on the starboard of the boat. So it depends. Again, do what you can. So try to have the bundles not too tight and separate your AC and DC and give yourself more hole. Like when you're drilling a hole, I'm telling you, I've done it on my boat where I thought, 1 inch is plenty, and that 1 inch was full, and then it became a 2 inch hole, and then that became too full. So when you're taking the opportunity of drilling these big holes through your bulkheads as you're running wires, probably give yourself at least double what you think it is. If you can get away with it and it's a place that it won't matter and it's hidden, it's behind the furniture, you won't regret it. Make sure that your wiring as it goes through the bulkheads where it gets constricted is not too tight so that you don't have heat dissipation issues. So great question, Jeff, and thanks for asking. If you're curious, we've written whole articles about this. Go on our website, search it out, and we've got a lot of other tech talks about this very topic. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do. it really does make a difference. It encourages us to keep posting. So if you're watching this video and haven't had a chance to subscribe, we really do care, because the more of you that are watching, the more of us over here are willing to spend more time in creating content. So thanks again.